first story, the Association of Graduate Teachers has warned government it will fiercely resist the intended teacher licensing examination if the needed due diligence is not done before implementation. Reacting to the Ghana Education Service's notice to begin implementation of the policy from September this year, NAGRAT Vice President Angel Kabunu said although they are not against licensing of teachers, the lack of transparency and the hurried nature of the process is unbecoming. The association, at a news conference on Thursday, called for an immediate suspension of the policy. Matilda Wemega has more.
The new policy will ensure that teachers pass a special examination before granting the license to teach. According to the Ghana Education Service, this will give the teachers opportunity to prove their competence and achieve results in their areas of specialization. The policy is expected to be rolled out in September this year, but already being faced with strong resistance from key stakeholders. The National Association of Graduate Teachers is one of the teacher unions questioning the entire process.
Let me state that NAGRAT is neither resisting licensing and registration of teachers, nor questioning the mandate of the National Teaching Council to do so. The above notwithstanding, we have issues with the procedure for the implementation of the policy and the subsequent repercussion thereof. How can anybody think that the mere issuance and acquisition of a license is enough to bring about effective teaching and learning?
Prospective teachers are expected to pay between 100 and 150 cedis for the licensing examination and 200 cedis for the license. NAGRAT is questioning the basis of payment of these monies.
These questions have been asked by teacher unions and have been left hanging. If the cost associated with the operation of a policy is left unaddressed, how can one expect those who may have to pay for it to embrace the policy? The National Teaching Council will do itself a lot of good if it comes out clear on the cost involved and those responsible for the payment. NAGRAT has concerns over the payment of non-refundable processing fee for the licensure exam. How was that figure arrived at? How can the National Teaching Council veto the payment of such money? We see this as a move to extort money from poor teachers as budgetary support for undisclosed intentions. We in NAGRAT strongly advocate for more stakeholder consultation on the implementation of the policy. We wish to assure everybody that once the right consultations are made, we'll do our best to ensure that the implementation of the policy succeeds. Anything short of the above will be met with bull force resistance.
The Association of Graduate Teachers also wants to engage the National Teaching Council on the number of years it will take for teachers to renew the license. Matilda Wemega for Joy News, Accra.
The National Teaching Council, NTC, has meanwhile denied claims by the National Association of Graduate Teachers that it has taken definite decisions on the new teacher licensing regime being proposed by government. Executive Secretary of the NTC, Dr. Evelyn Udro, in an interview on The Pulse, said the council is shocked at the posture of the teachers over the matter. It urged restraint amongst teachers, assuring there will be engagements.
We cannot do this without stakeholder engagement. NAGRAT, NAT, concerned teachers have been involved in every discussion that we have undertaken. We have never left them out of any discussion. What I want to correct is that the hula baloo going on is not coming from the National Teaching Council. We have not put any information in the papers nor anywhere that we are going to examine teachers. Please, they should find the source of the information and address it accordingly.
I thought we had a very respectable forum that we could all resort to when we are doing these issues. But when emphatic and conclusive statements are made, ahead of even decisions that are supposed to be taken. That is where the problem is. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Who authorized anyone to put into the media amount of money that are supposed to be paid? Who gave that authorization?
We have not even concluded about the fees, the procedures, and other things.
Okay.
So, well, this is a question myself and Angel should ask. And we should find out who is doing this.
Okay.
But whether it is signed by the chairman of the National Teaching Council, I don't know.
As far as I was concerned, as at 1st August, we were moving very positively.
Okay.
Until such a time that news started coming out, our members started indicating to us that certain decisions have been taken, and if it were not true, how come it is in the media, and so on and so forth. And in fact, there were even quotations that I was so shocked were able to be released to the media.
Okay.
That means that the NCC will have to look into itself. Because look, they are in the primary stage of a very important exercise. And in such important exercise, if you are not too careful, you start letting out issues into the media, it could truncate an otherwise positive agenda that you may have.
Angel should exercise patience, calm his members down, and allay any fear, because NCC has not and will not do anything which will disturb teachers.
Now, Acting Managing Director of Ghana Post says internal investigations are ongoing to ascertain how Ghana Post ran into significant losses. Jonathan Kofi would not say what form the investigations are taking, but says it will produce interventions that will help the company regain its relevance. Mr. Kofi told Gifty Ando appear on the pulse. Under his leadership, Ghana Post is expected to be paying dividends to government by 2020.
Looking at improving our service delivery, that means that improving our delivery structure, both the fleet and technology, using technology to be more efficient. And as a result of that, we will be connecting most of our post offices via the internet, so that we can easily get access to all the services that we provide, and also management information data. The Post has been holding on to a very good brand that can easily be turned around as a revenue generation vehicle for the government. What happened to Ghana Post is that when the postal business was changing and evolving into adding additional services such as financial services and courier services, expanded courier services, we didn't do our best to keep up. These days, customers want convenience. Right. Convenience means sitting in your home and shopping online, right, and getting the parcel delivered to your house, yeah, or to your friend on time and in full. Ghana Post will do that for you. Yes, Ghana Post will do that for you. In addition to that, our website is going to have an e-commerce marketplace, where in addition to us being able to deliver your parcels for you, you can actually go there, and other SMEs and other on e-commerce providers can go ahead and display their goods on our website. As a limited liability company, every year you have audited accounts. Okay. So people are held accountable in the audited accounts for certain actions when we remedy, when we try to resolve the problems based on the recommendations of our auditors. Okay. So that is there are some investigations that are ongoing. Okay. So until they get to the end of it, we don't know if people will be held accountable.
What are you investigating?
Well, I mean, where we feel that we are not getting enough revenue, or where we feel that there has been one or two malfeasance, we go to the normal investigative process, and then depending on the outcome of the investigation, we use our internal guidelines and then we go to a board of inquiry, and then the appropriate decisions are made. Well, we have an investigative team in-house that does the investigation. So I can't mention any current cases now because they are still under investigation.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a short break, but still ahead, Eastern Region Red Sec calls for calm among residents of Akukoso, where 4 miners were killed over the weekend. Details when we return. You're welcome back. Now, earlier we heard from the Managing Director of Ghana Post talking about reforms he intends to implement to turn around the fortunes of the company, while the Ranking Member of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, Kofi Oteyume, is calling for the shutdown of Ghana Post. His demand follows the admission by the Acting Managing Director that over 100 of its offices across the country are making losses. Speaking to Joy News after the committee's sitting Thursday, the Member of Parliament for Fantiakwa South said Ghana Post offices has outlived its relevance in the country.
Most of the purposes for which Ghana Post was set up, like distributing letters, how many people are writing letters now when they have their WhatsApp in their pockets? How many people are doing money order or postal order when you get your money on your telephone? Nowadays, they are reduced to only parcel movement. If you look at Ghana Post now, it's the last time I saw a parcel moving van of Ghana Post. People are sending their parcels through this VIP and what have you and that sort of thing. They have been operating at a loss for so many years. So it means that somehow the investor is losing money. I'm sure if it was any private company, he will not continue to lose money year after year. The services for which they provide, either they have sat down for others to take over, or they have not gone along with technology so that they can keep ahead of the game. So right now, I don't see why, if it was a private man, he would have closed the Ghana Post down. For instance, if government decided to close all the Ghana Post offices in Ghana and maybe sell all the properties there and use the money to do something else, it will be more profitable to Ghanaians.
To the Eastern region now, where the regional police commander is calling for calm among residents of Etiwa and families of the 4 men who were killed over the weekend at Akukoso near Kwabeng in the Etiwa district. The call comes after the Eastern Regional Security Council, led by the regional minister, regional police commander and other security couples, also visited some family members of the deceased to commiserate with them. There's more in this report.
Eastern Regional Police Commander is calling for calm among the residents of Atiwa and the families of the 4 men who were killed over the weekend at Akukoso. DCOP Simon Afeku assured the residents of the police's determination to bring to book any person found culpable of the crime. He said the police administration is treating the matter with all the seriousness it deserves to unravel the circumstances surrounding the killing. He also urged residents to volunteer information to assist the police in its investigations. He spoke with Maxwell Kudeko after the Eastern Regional Security Council visited the crime scene and the families of the deceased at Atiwa.
The police administration is treating it with all the seriousness that it deserves. It has some national interest connotations. The IGP has asked the CID headquarters, that is the national headquarters, to come into the investigations. So they are handling the investigations. Locally, we are supporting them to carry out the investigations. So my appeal to the public is that we should continue exercising the necessary restraint whilst investigations are being carried out to unravel the circumstances that led to the death of these 4 people here. And again, anybody with any vital information should come forward to the police in one way or the other. If they cannot go anywhere, they should come personally to me. Maybe for certain reasons, they should come personally to me. And I think it will go a long way in assisting our investigations to unravel the circumstances that led to this.
Eastern Regional Minister Eric Kwache therefore spoke to Joy News on what actions the Security Council intends to take, as well as his observations of the visit.
Our plan is to meet with all the supposedly licensed companies that are mining in the area, together with the Vanguard team, together with our security agencies, and you, the press, civil society, so that all of us can understand what it is that the Vanguard team has come to do, what they expect from all of us. That understanding must be there. It must be there so that if they are doing their job, if the security people are doing their job, it will not be construed as if they are trying to pester or to maybe, in that term, witch hunt somebody. No. So we want to meet on Thursday, that is 24th. And we expect all of you to be there so we can share ideas on the mining law, who is a small-scale miner, what is expected of him, the equipment that he can use.
As the residents of one of the deceased, popularly known as Danjuma, the family members expressed anger over media reports that the four were engaged in illegal mining.
Now, 4 people have died and 3 are on admission at the Pando hospital at Pando in the Volta region after consuming poisonous fish. Correspondent Ivy Setoji joins me on the line with more. Ivy, good evening to you. You checked on the victims. What can you report? Hello, Ivy, if you can hear me, I'm asking, you have been checking on the victims. What can you report?
Well, for now, the victims are responding to treatment according to the administrator of the hospital. As of now, residents are worried because many of them do not know about the poisonous fish, even though some of the fishermen knew about it, but the residents do not know about it. So they are asking the FDA especially to intensify education on the issue so that other people will not be affected, especially those who are not aware in the southern parts of the Volta region. These fishes are brought to various markets in the Volta region, and so people do not know what it is actually. So they are asking the FDA to intensify education on the set.
Ivy, we do understand that the Food and Drugs Authority in the region has taken samples to test the fish, the poisonous fish in question. But what have you picked up about what kind of fish this is?
Well, for now, according to them, they are still investigating. The name of the fish, according to the people, is Kede. That was what we saw. That was what they told us. But we don't really know what it is. It has big 2 teeth in front, kind of like an animal, a big animal from the bush. That is how the fish teeth looks like. And it's a little big, not too big though, but it's at least bigger than tilapia, the big tilapia. So right now, the FDA went to some markets in the region to see if they could see some of the fish on sale, but according to them, they couldn't see any. So they are still investigating to see if they will get the fish, and they are also educating the market women and the traders in the region.
And Ivy, what I'm told that the fish, its scientific name is piranha with the fangs. But tell me, is it a common delicacy in the region, or Pando, as we know?
Well, as I said, some few people, especially the fishermen, know about the fish and how poisonous it is. So when they go on sea and they catch this fish among the other fishes, they make sure they throw it back to the sea. But many people actually do not know this kind of fish. So they take it, they smoke it, and then send it to various markets. So many people are worried because of the fact that they do not know about the fish, how poisonous it is, except some few fishermen.
All right, many thanks. Ivy Setoji is our Volta regional correspondent with that update. And the news is that 4 people are dead and others are also on admission at the hospital receiving treatment for consuming poisonous fish. Moving on, Deputy Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing, Frida Prempeh, has appealed to real estate developers to consider income levels when putting up their homes. According to her, most Ghanaians are unable to afford the properties being sold because they are beyond their budgets. Speaking to journalists during a tour of some properties in Tema, the Deputy Housing Minister blamed the phenomenon for the many unoccupied residential units and high-rise apartments strewn across the capital.
We want to bridge the gap in the housing industry. Ghana, as it stands now, we have a housing deficit of 1.7 million. If we want to undertake a comprehensive scientific research, we'll be heading towards to about 2 million housing deficits. As you drive around Accra, you come across a lot of houses, you come across a lot of apartments, you come across a lot of some of these high-rise buildings, looking and crying for buyers. So you ask yourself, why are we still talking about housing deficit? Because the cost of such buildings are very expensive. We in the housing industry are looking at a situation where we can get quality, affordable houses for the good people of Ghana. And the cost of the two-bedroom apartment as it stands now, it's no more affordable. We are talking about quality, affordable social houses for the people who are below the ladder. When you look at the pyramid, those at the top, they can afford to buy the $100,000, $200,000 kind of houses. Those in the middle of about 35% can also manage somehow. But those of us among the 55% down the pyramid, that's where the problem is. So if government wants to support the affordable, those people at the basement, we need to go into a social housing scheme where people below the ladder can afford to rent or buy a house. So as it stands, I think we have to do a lot of work. That's why we are advocating that the private sector especially incorporate the usage of local materials into the building industry. We believe that if we're able to do that, we'll bring down the cost of buildings, because at the end of the day, it's the final consumer who suffers.
Chief Executive Officer of SETI Realty, Godwin Ejejemfi, he said the company has properties that are reasonably affordable.
The idea of our development is to have a gated community enclave whereby our occupants will have the benefit of shops such as pharmacies and also leisure facilities, so that they do not need to simply go out for those essential amenities. I must also make it clear that it is also a state of the art and is very, very affordable. We have, as I explained to you earlier on, rooftop and underground reservoir to provide 24-hour water supply. As you know, Ghana, we can't run away from it. It has water supply difficulties. We also have, as you can see, a standby generator to provide 24-hour service power supply. So once you step into our development, doom stops. You're not affected by flooding whatsoever. The whole area is actually flood-proof. And we are currently, under our PPP agreement, in discussion with the government to assist us in actually repairing the road around the enclave. I mean, for example, we are using energy-saving bulbs, which is very, very significant. Because if you ask anybody who works at the ECG, one of the elements which actually takes up the cost of living is lighting. We actually use energy-saving bulb in all our apartments.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. Still to come, experts express worry about the fate of hundreds of sexual abuse victims abandoned to deal with the trauma they endured all by themselves without any psychological support. Details of that plus business coming up. Don't go away.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Business on Joy News Prime. We begin from the ports because Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has directed institutions managing the country's biggest port, Tema, to begin the implementation of the paperless port operation on a pilot basis beginning Friday. This is to allow for the agencies to deal with challenges that may arise from the program and find innovative ways of dealing with it before the general rollout of the process in September this year. This was disclosed by Acting General Manager in charge of Marketing and Corporate Affairs at the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Esther Donko, at a talk show organized by the Ghana Shippers Authority under the theme Seaport Clearance Processes and Single Window.
Advance in our preparation for the 1st of September. We have put our systems in place. We are testing and trying them and then trying to perfect whatever we have to do before 1st September. So I think that we are ready. We have interfaced with GCNet so that our clients can make the requests from their offices. They don't have to come to our revenue center. We have also interfaced with Westblow on the electronic payment platform. And so these two major things have been done. And so we are ready.
We received the directive from the Vice President that Westblow and GCNet should do this together, knowing very well what is between them, and then some shippers not happy with the two companies operating at the port.
Well, there is this perceived I don't know whether it's competition or whatever is between them. But then I believe that so far they're all working together, and where they have to interface so that we get the information real time, they are cooperating with each other. So I believe that by 1st September there'll be no issue and we'll all be able to move on with the directive.
Well, so the pilot implementation was initially built to begin on the 7th of August, but there was a no-show. So what should importers and exporters expect at the Tema port on Friday? My colleague Ebenezer Sabute has been speaking to Richard Yauche, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Programs and Policy at the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority.
For the regulatory agencies, they will be receiving reports from us that the work they have done, this is the acknowledgement. For the terminal operators, they will be receiving messages so that they can position containers and then so we can examine them and release. For the port authorities, the same thing. Then we have also done, created platforms for payments, multiple payments. Payments in which you can either walk to the bank or you can pay online. So basically, this background work has been done. Then we've gone ahead to do sensitization of all the stakeholders, all of them. So if you take all in totality, in which every institution that is involved has had this kind of training and awareness, then we should be able to start a pilot tomorrow. We have selected a number of companies for the pilot. On the side of the agents, we have selected a number. On the side of terminal operators, we have selected a number, and we will begin the pilot at Tema and possibly Takrady. So this is what the pilot is about. Now, the object of the pilot is to see how the preparations are going to go, the coordination between the institutions, the flow of documents, and then to discover any challenges that probably we may not have considered already, and then to see how we resolve them before the 1st of September when we go live.
Turning to the rail sector now, government is seeking to attract an estimated $10 billion to revamp Ghana's dilapidated rail system. The master plan, a 5-phase rail development plan, will cover all regions and pass through various trade districts across the country. The Ministry of Railways Development has initiated talks with some Israeli investors in order to carry this out. Charles Aite has more.
Ghana needs in excess of $10 million in order to boost the railway sector. This is according to the Sector Minister of Railways, Joe Garte, who hints of government's partner in the public sector in order to complete all railway projects in the next 5 years. Speaking to Joy Business at the Israeli-Ghana Chamber of Commerce event, Joe Garte hints that talks with Israeli investors are underway to facilitate the completion of the Accra to Paga railways.
Every country in the world has opportunity. Anybody can come. We are open country. Our only preference is Ghana. You see, we should not forget that every country represents its own interest. We are friends with everybody, enemies with none. So and then I've come to Israel, I meet with Germans, I meet with Americans, and I go, as they call me, I'm selling my country. Well, there are things we can measure. I mean, the amount of rail they did in Ethiopia, they did in 4 years. The rail that they did in Nigeria, they did it in 3.5 years or 4 years. So it's not as if you are doing something that is rocket science that you can come and tell us anything you want to tell us. You know what I'm saying? We also have engineers who know what they're about. So, I mean, as we award the contract, you have to give us realistic timeline.
On his part, the Israeli ambassador to Ghana and Liberia, Amimel, revealed his government is committed to boosting the economic fortunes of Ghana through massive investment in the infrastructure sector.
You will have to go to work for 3-4 hours every day. You lose millions of dollars every day, tens of millions of dollars every day. So if you can invest those tens of millions of dollars every day in building railway, then you will see that, first of all, you will develop, of course, much faster, and you will lose, or you will win money.
Agric now, and vegetable exporters may soon heave a sigh of relief as the ban on exports could be lifted soon, as the sector prepares to receive an EU delegation for a review in a few weeks' time. Head of the ministerial task force set up to monitor and address issues in the vegetable export system, Kwesi Kobo, says regulators have implemented a number of measures to ensure the ban is overturned.
Having intercepted over 500 batches of infected vegetables, the ban came into force in 2014 after a warning in 2012. Chili peppers, aubergine and gourds were on the list of banned produce. Subsequently, a task force was set up by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to ensure standards set by the EU were met before the next review by the EU's Commission on September 12, 2017. Head of the task force, Kwesi Kobo, spoke to Joy Business about the measures in place to get the ban lifted.
One of the critical things we've done is to put in what we call a standard operating procedure, SOPs, at our exit points. That clearly spells out how the whole export system has been set. So everybody's clear on the rules. Because don't forget, a lot of players in the export sector. You've got PPRSD, who by the law, Act 803, are responsible for regulating exports of plant and plant products. You've got the exporters, we've got farmers, we've got those providing export facilities like Avians, Swissport, AGPC, you've got the airlines, you've got NACOP, you've got GRE, you've got a lot of a lot of stakeholders in this thing. So the SOP basically lays out the pathway as to the role for each of these stakeholders I mentioned. We've also, with support from our donors and also with government support, provided the necessary tools for the inspectors to work with. That is microscopes, hand lenses. We've also set up systems and provided quite adequate logistics and infrastructure for them to work and adequately inspect this produce properly. So these are some of the things that we've done.
Kwesi Kobo is hopeful that this time the review will be positive for the ban to be lifted.
Chilies, for example, I mean, you're looking at markets of a ton of about maybe, some would say about 1,000 pounds a ton, or 5 pounds per kilo, say about. So if you lose about 3, 4, 5,000 metric tons, that's a lot of money Ghana as a country we lose. I believe that if we reverse the ban, we should see increase in at least in that sector, that vegetable sector, anywhere from $5 million up to $10 million and plus. But what it also does, it will also open up. You get the floodgates will be open, and we should see more outputs, more exports going up as a country. And I think that I'm hopeful that with the hard work put in by my colleagues, people as the task force, I think we'll see a turnaround.
In terms of business value, the Ghanaian chili totals $3.8 million, more than any other chili producing country outside EU.
Well, a quick update from the banking sector. General Manager in charge of risk management at HFC Bank, Anthony Jordan, has been confirmed as the bank's new managing director. A statement by the Ghana Stock Exchange on Thursday announced the appointment. Mr. Jordan takes over from Robert Lee Hunt, who resigned to take up a ministerial appointment in Trinidad and Tobago after serving as MD for 4 years. Here's more on the new MD, Mr. Jordan, and the work ahead of him.
Kofi Jordan takes over as new MD. He will be overseeing the administration of the bank with a total asset valued at $234.3 million, equivalent to 435.3 million Ghana cedi. Prior to his appointment at HFC Bank, Mr. Jordan was the Assistant General Manager in charge of corporate and investment banking at Republic Bank Limited in Trinidad and Tobago. At the bank, he was responsible for business development in both corporate banking and capital markets. He holds an Executive Masters of Business Administration and a BSc Management Studies from the University of West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Jordan is also an associate of the Chartered Institute of Bankers in London. One of his immediate tasks as a new MD will be to oversee a smooth transition process from HFC Bank to Republic Bank by the last quarter of this year. He would also have to address some challenges relating to staff management at the bank.
And that's all in business. More news after this break.
You're welcome back. Now, government's decision to extend school hours to 4 p.m. is still facing some resistance. The proposal, which was put forward by the Minister of Education at a forum in Accra a fortnight ago, is intended to increase contact hours school children have with their teachers. But this proposal has been strongly rejected by some NGOs, including a group calling itself Innovative Teachers. Prime servant of the NGO, Stephen Desu, argues government should rather focus on equipping schools with necessary teaching and learning materials rather than keeping children in schools for longer hours.
Of the minister, he thinks that more is better, as in spend a lot of time in the classroom. But it's not the number of hours you spend in the classroom that matters. It's the quality of use of instructional time that matters. So we rather have to resource teachers to work, to make their work, better than what they are doing now. Because you can spend from 6 to 6. If your TLM you're using to teach ICT in terms of, say, mouse is a stone, you're wasting your time. That is what we are saying, that we need investment in education, not extension of time. We think that, one, is not backed by any scientific idea. Two, our children in our classrooms will be tired, they will be hungry. Most of them come to school hungry anyway, and the school feeding program does not, affect them anyway, so they will not be listening to you. So there's no need. We rather close early, reduce the subjects rather, close early, and rather provide the tools for the teachers to work. There should be less contact hours with the pupils. We should rather have more time for them to play.
And still on education, the National Service Secretariat says it is determined to turn graduates from the country's tertiary sector into employers rather than prospective employees waiting to be handed jobs. Deputy Executive Director Gifty Oware Abuaje was confident the implementation of training programs outlined for the personnel will satisfy institutions that complain about the quality of graduates posted to them. She was speaking to Joy News after a 2-day training program on entrepreneurial development for service personnel in Cape Coast.
Newly posted national service personnel with their colleagues that are done with their service and are exiting the national service scheme are being taken through what is called soft skills and other entrepreneurial insights before they get engaged with institutions across the country. According to the National Service Secretariat, the feedback the Secretariat gets from institutions indicates that national service persons lack the basic employable skills for them to engage them and subsequently employ them. Thus, according to the Deputy Executive Director of the NSS, Gitowari Abuaji, would be a thing of the past, as the NSS is determined to give the personnel everything they need to know before they start their national service this year.
To make sure that from now people would complain less about the people that we deploy, because it hurts when you deploy people and the feedback you get is not positive. So we just want positive feedback on job. So the supporting we give to the society will come back and appreciate it more than they do. Sure. Tomorrow's training from the United West guys, they have insurance brokerage as part of their strategy. They're going to teach them. So for instance, even as NSPs, they can still have access to being a brokerage. So then you go out there and you broker a deal for an insurance company, any insurance company, because they are not being limited to just one. And at the end of the day, you know that, okay, I've been enhanced to be a broker. Then it's money for you. So when you finish, you can be your own CEO. Can decide to open a brokerage and make sure that it works for you. As they are working, they can still have this as part-time. We as a party came to power, we provided a lot of space and conducive environment for people to work. And what is it worth if after 1 year they don't even get jobs? We keep complaining. A lot of people say we want to do something, but I don't know how to do it. Now we are giving the first space to getting these jobs done. So when they go out there after work, in between work, you can still have it. You can't do just one job and become rich.
Jody spoke to some of the national service persons after they have been taken through some basics such as proposal writing, CV writing, and personal statement, and a host of others.
Move from region to region to educate our service persons about CV writing and then taking reports and some minor tips that we need to add up to whatever course that we have done in our institutions. For example, you might be in an office whereby there will be a minute and you'll be asked to take a minute, but you have no knowledge about that. Taking minute doesn't mean it's a course that you're studying in a university. It's something that you add up to what you have done. So we are here to help our people as they are going to the service to work in their various offices. Some of these things can come up to take reports and stuff, so they can have a fair knowledge and idea of what to do. That's what this program is all about. As we
Now, it's a race against time to find survivors. I'm talking about Sierra Leone, and the Red Cross in Sierra Leone says they are frantically looking for survivors. Now, this comes as frantic efforts are being made to rescue some 600 people who cannot be accounted for. However, 400 others who are known to be dead are said to be buried by government on the outskirts of the country. Presidential spokesperson Abdoulaye Barade told the BBC the planned mass burial to free up space in the mortuaries has been delayed. The Deputy Chief Medical Officer of the Ministry of Health in Sierra Leone, Dr. Amara Jambai, says the government has put in place a cholera prevention plan to avoid the likely impact of waterborne diseases. He spoke with my colleague Maxwell Ababa on the sidelines of a meeting between officials of that country's health ministry and some personnel of the National Health Insurance Scheme at their headquarters in Accra.
This is a hard-to-reach area. So tractors went in and removed. In the end, we saw body parts, and it was pathetic. Went down to the major hospital, and we had to deal with that. It means the first problem we had at hand as a ministry was how to get rid of the bodies and the missing arms, limbs, and all this sort. And that is our task now, burials. As I'm talking to you now, we have put in place burial teams. As you know, we had the experience of the Ebola, whereby we had people who were doing burials. And fortunately, they just came in well, and people started falling into place, and the burial teams started resurrecting, and as of now, they are operational.
So have you made available body bags, for instance, which will be, very critical in this? Have you made available the necessary gloves that some of these workers will be using?
Fortunately, we had leftovers from the Ebola, the body bags, the PPEs, and the required implements for safe and dignified burials, which we are doing. So we are fortunate that we have some residual effect of the Ebola. So we are using that.
Now, finally, let's talk about the aftermath of this, disaster. Now, there's the possibility that there will be an upsurge in waterborne diseases like cholera, like diarrhea. You talked about, still going around looking for some, body parts. All of this would contribute to some of these waterborne diseases that we're talking about. How is the Ministry of Health in Sierra Leone looking, to mitigate the effects of some of these things that would come up in the future?
Well, as a ministry, for us, yes, we will do the barriers. But our major concern is to make sure that more lives are not lost.
Meanwhile, Ghanaian diplomat James Victor Gbeho has asked government to put her expertise at the disposal of Sierra Leone. Speaking in an interview with Joy News' Mama Viewusu Abuaje, Mr. Gbeho described the situation in Sierra Leone as tragic and called on the government to respond with every assistance possible.
Very tragic, and I do hope that we can put some of our expertise in these matters, at the disposal of Sierra Leone at this time. We have considerable experience with NADBO, and that is the kind of thing that the Sierra Leoneans need at this time. I'm sure they can handle their own relations with other people, but to be able to coordinate, help from many parts of the country, and also especially help from Ghana. We probably will need to have people on the ground, and I hope that our government will hurry up to offer its, because the president of Sierra Leone has already asked in a broadcast for assistance, and even though not everybody is comfortable yet in this country, you don't wait till everybody is satisfied. We must, develop a spirit of helping neighbors and so on. And so I hope we can do something very quickly.
Now, the ordeal sexual abuse victims have to endure is traumatizing enough to have someone to immediately take their own lives. Unfortunately, though, many victims get absolutely no support on how to cope with the trauma that they live with well after such incidents. Experts say hundreds of sexually abused girls continue to suffer silently due to their inability to access proper medical and psychological treatment to enable them recover from that situation. If allowed to persist, it could leave them marked for life. In the following Hotline documentary, Joy News' Adelaide Arthur and Manasseh Azuri Awini tell the stories of some of these survivors of defilement.
First, no more young Sunday, me to fear dinner, say, Mindia Grobia, and I says, Symmetry more. I name is a mean coming with them, nearly part me new. Some about us so many to my best and you know. You see fire, yapa. No, meaning Bonama, no, me ever said you. No, you dear. Is a minion Bonivia.
When 14-year-old Angel woke up one morning in March, she had no idea it would be the most dreadful day of her life, a day she would come close to death. She was kidnapped, raped, and strangled by 5 men. She survived the terrible ordeal, and it was only because she outsmarted her attackers who had dumped her in a stream to die a very painful death. This devastating experience is still fresh in her mind.
No muso munkunti mitiso bi miame ko to miame na menene me pepre wona mi treda jam what said ma mi koko makra papa ka so mon fam no mon tumi tunsu no to mo tumi tunsu no Manusia me to na me hot me down almost by 1 hour na me go sit down so mani titim na me dance so na ma me hwehwe.
A psychologist recommended 6 months counseling for Angel at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi.
Good morning. Mommy, it's nice to see you. Let's say, every hour I was started by an idea, say. My sister said, "Oh, bet me I can be actually."
So that means and you want to be first in the night about me 3 months before family, but they say, "So I'll cut to church." They said, "I mean,
when she came at first, she was very suicidal. She felt she wasn't worth living because being raped by 5 men it's not easy. So that was her case, and she was so depressed. You see, suicidal ideation comes as a result of depression.
Experts say a number of rape perpetrators are known to victims. They are usually close family members or acquaintances. And such was the case of these 2 young sisters, Mercy and Mary, who were defiled by their uncle in 2015. They were only 8 and 11 at the time.
My small sister was sick and my mother sent her to hospital at Kolebu, and my uncle was taking care of us. So my father too was at work, and my uncle told us that we should sleep early. But if we stand up in the midnight, he will rape us, but we shouldn't tell anybody. But if we tell, we'll see what he will do to us.
Okay, so in the night, what happened?
When we were sleeping, and they just came to sleep on us.
But for the financial support from strangers, Angel wouldn't have been able to get the medical and psychological care she needed after she survived gang rape, and this would have impeded her recovery. The Social Welfare Department at Nkoko has so far been unable to offer any support to her. As for the 2 sisters, their dad Simon believes they were denied a better medical care. He looks apologetic as he says he cannot afford counseling for his girls, even though he concedes they need it.
When we went to the hospital, I expected some injection to take place or something, and I know the doctors know best. But what was given to us was an ointment, because we always go with this National Health Insurance card.
The most important thing is for us to have systems and structures that facilitate the full recovery of children. And I must say with a lot of pain in my heart that we don't have this in this country. Okay, so children who are defiled are left. It is sad that we don't go to enough distances to protect children and let them feel that they have a state that has their interest at heart.
Ghana, according to clinical psychologist Adolphe Bekwe, cannot have its girls abused and abandoned.
Really sad there. And the full documentary airs on Monday at 6:30. Do make a date. Now, a report on the use of funds allocated to MMDAs for the fight against HIV/AIDS has revealed gross misapplication of the resources. Civil Society Advisor for People for Health, Mukaila Adamu, who presented the report, cited several instances where the funds were not used for the intended purpose. Notwithstanding the misapplication of the funds, the group believes it has become necessary for the allocation to be increased from 0.5% of the District Assembly's Common Fund to 2%. Nancy Emefa Dradosi has more.
The assessment report on the 0.5% of District Assembly's Common Fund for HIV and AIDS programs revealed widespread misapplication and non-compliance in the disbursement of the funds. At Brim South in the Eastern region, for instance, 3,035 Ghana cedis was used to maintain the Assembly's vehicle and prepare a report for the National Development Planning Commission, contrary to guidelines. It also revealed some assemblies did not receive the allocation for the last quarter of 2014 and 2016. Chairman of Country Coordinating Mechanism, CCM, Collins Ejako Inti, urged the MPs to show more interest in the work of the Ghana AIDS Commission.
We need to realize that Ghana as a country has attained a lower middle income status, as a result of which the donors are gradually becoming unwilling to free more resources for us, not only for HIV, but for other sectors. There is the need for us, therefore, to look inwards to find resources to fight HIV and AIDS. So the reality is now with us that we need to be serious as a country with the mobilization of internal resources to fight HIV. And I am happy that there have been calls about the fact that the assemblies should find a way of getting additional resources for the fight against HIV and AIDS.
He further added that though calls for the increase of the allocation of funds for the fight against HIV are valid, there must also be a conscious effort by the assemblies to mobilize internal resources.
Let me also emphasize that I know our brothers from Parliament will do their job, but it is important as part of the project for them to also sensitize the ministry, the Ghana AIDS Commission, and all the others. Because if you look at the 1990 agenda, the district assemblies have a role to play. And their role relates to the mobilization of the people in their communities for all the activities involved in the 1990. And so that they must also target all of them so that together we can achieve this laudable objective for which this study was launched.
Though admitting that it will be a Herculean task, ranking member of the Select Committee for Health, Yile Chere, noted that the committee will deliberate on the matter. The group is, among other things, calling on the Attorney General and Parliament to, as a matter of urgency, institute appropriate sanctions against assemblies and office holders who have gone contrary to the law.
Now, former UN Secretary General Kofi Annans has donated for exhibition and auction some of his personal artworks in support of education. At a ceremony to open the exhibition, Mr. Annans said the artworks are tokens of affection and support he received over the years from around the world, which have helped and sustained him. Drawing a connection between the artworks and his former school, Mfansipim School, Mr. Kofi Annans said they both hold special places in his heart, hence his intention to auction them to support the school.
I think it's a great pleasure for me to be able to give back. These are tokens of support and affection I got from around the world. And it was in Mfansipim where I began my journey. And I'm really happy to be able to auction this stuff. I gave it to the school as gifts, and the school is auctioning them off to be able to help the young ones. And I'm sure as they start on their long journey, they would also come across people around the world and in the country who give them support, encouragement, and guidance. So I hope whatever little money is raised here will be put to good use.